My name is Monica, and if you asked anyone outside my family, they'd probably say I was lucky. At 28, I had a stable career in a downtown tech company, a salary that allowed me to live alone in a decent apartment, and the kind of financial freedom most of my cousins envied. But lucky is a word that tastes bitter to me now, because what I learned that night, what my family showed me without shame, was that luck, in their eyes, made me less of a daughter and more of an ATM with a pulse. It was a Thursday when my parents celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary. They had reserved a big table at Romano's, a well-known Italian place with velvet drapes and chandeliers that dripped golden light over every glass of wine. My mother had been buzzing for weeks about it. "We want something special this year," she told me during one of her daily calls, her voice tight with excitement. 15 people at one long table, all your uncles, your aunts, cousins. Monica, don't be late, okay? 7 sharp. I had confirmed it 3 times that week alone. 7 o'clock, sharp. But life doesn't bend for family celebrations, at least not for me. At 6 p.m., just as I was about to shut down my computer, my boss strolled by and dropped an urgent client issue on my desk. 5 minutes, Monica, he said. 5 minutes became 10, then 25. I was practically sprinting to my car at 6:45, cursing the red lights and the crawl of downtown traffic. When I finally walked into Romano's at 7:30, my chest was buzzing with guilt, but also relief. I'd made it. Not on time, but not unforgivably late. At least that's what I told myself. The hostess led me through the maze of linen-draped tables to the far back, where a long table stretched out like a banquet scene from a movie. But my footsteps faltered. The table was littered with empty plates, drained wine glasses, crumpled napkins. The smell of garlic and marinara still lingered, but only as a ghost. They had already eaten, all of them. "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late," I said, forcing a smile as I slid into the one empty chair left for me. The chatter died. Faces turned toward me, some grinning, some smirking, all strangely expectant. My Aunt Marla hid a laugh behind her hand. My cousin Leo snickered into his wineglass. Even my father, usually reserved, had the shadow of a smile tugging at his lips. Then Mom leaned forward, her eyes soft with an almost exaggerated sweetness. "Oh, honey, we moved dinner up by 2 hours. Everyone was starving." I blinked at her. "What? But the reservation was for 7. I confirmed it with you this morning." She shrugged lightly, like she was commenting on the weather. "We didn't think you'd actually show up. You're always so busy with work." Something in me cracked then, just a hairline fracture, but I kept my voice steady. "I told you I'd be here." Miss Monica, my younger sister, raised her glass. "Look, there's still food. Plenty for you." She pointed at the table, where half-eaten breadsticks sagged in their basket. Bowls of pasta had congealed into clumps, and the remains of a salad wilted under the weight of warm dressing. My stomach turned. "You couldn't even call to tell me you changed the time?" Dad cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. "Monica, we just figured, with your schedule." But Mom cut him off, reaching into her purse. "Since you're here now, this is perfect timing." She pulled out a folded piece of paper and slid it across the table to me with a smile too deliberate to be kind. I unfolded it, my breath caught. The bill, $1,500. "Mom," I whispered, staring at the number, "this has to be a joke." Her lips curved into something between pity and triumph. "Oh, I never joke about money, sweetie. You've got that great job. No kids, no husband. This is easy for you." The table erupted in laughter. My Uncle Bob nearly spilled his wine. Aunt Marla chimed in. "Older kids should always take care of their parents. That's tradition." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "You want me to pay for a dinner I didn't even eat? A dinner you deliberately excluded me from?" "Come on, Monica," Dad said, leaning back in his chair. "You always help us out. It's like our little family tradition now. Don't break tradition." As Monica tipped her glass toward me, her grin sharp. "Yeah, our ATM that doesn't need a PIN code." The laughter swelled again, cruel and careless. Each chuckle felt like a nail hammered into me. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of boiling over, a strange calmness spread through me. Their voices blurred into static, and for the first time, I heard the truth beneath it. They weren't joking. They were telling me exactly what they thought I was, what I'd become to them. A wallet with a face. I looked down at the bill in my hand, the ink swimming slightly as my grip trembled. $1,500 for a dinner I hadn't been allowed to share. A celebration I was never really part of. Slowly, I tore the bill in half. Gasps cut through the laughter. Then I tore it again and again until the scraps fell like snow onto the table. Happy anniversary, I said, my voice calm. Almost too calm. I pushed back my chair, stood, and let the pieces flutter onto the remains of their meal like confetti. The laughter died instantly. My mother's face drained of color. Smonica's smirk faltered. The silence was heavier than the chandeliers above us. I grabbed my purse and turned. Behind me, Mom's voice rose, sharp and frantic. "Monica, come back here this instant." But I didn't turn. My legs carried me out of Romano's, past the polished floors and velvet curtains, into the night air that smelled faintly of rain. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking. Not just from anger, but from something deeper. It felt like waking from a long, distorted dream. And what terrified me most was how relieved I felt. When I got home that night, the silence of my apartment pressed against my ears, louder than any laughter at Romano's. I tossed my purse onto the couch and stood in the middle of my living room, staring at nothing, trying to slow my breathing. Then my phone lit up. Once, twice, then again. A flood of notifications poured in like water through a crack in the wall. 15 missed calls, 23 unread messages. Monica, you need to come back right now and pay the bill. Mom, Monica, this is humiliating. Fix this immediately. Dad, your mother is crying. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I turned the screen over on the table, but the buzzing wouldn't stop. Each vibration was like a mosquito bite, small but relentless. By midnight, I'd stopped counting. By 2 a.m., I finally put my phone on silent and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My body was exhausted, but my mind wouldn't rest. Their voices replayed over and over. ATM, don't break tradition, just pay. It wasn't about one dinner, it was about years. Flashbacks crashed into me like waves. 2 years ago, Dad between jobs, calling me late at night, his voice heavy with shame, but also expectation. Monica, the mortgage is due, just this month. It became 6 months. Last year, when Smonica graduated, she had a job lined up, but the ink wasn't dry on her diploma before she asked for help with her rent deposit. You're my big sister. You're supposed to help me start out. That start had quietly stretched into me paying her rent every month. The Florida vacation. Mom had sent me a postcard of palm trees and cocktails. I'd paid for the whole trip but wasn't invited. I had told myself I was being a good daughter, a supportive sister. That's what family did. But family was supposed to give back, wasn't it? Not once had they shown up for me. Not when I had the flu and lay shivering in bed. Not when I worked 70-hour weeks on a project that nearly broke me. They never asked if I needed help, because in their eyes, I didn't. I was the lucky one, the one with money and no family of her own. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. A Venmo notification. Payment request, $1,500. From Mom. The note read, "Gift for anniversary dinner." I actually laughed out loud, the sound sharp in my empty kitchen. A gift? For a meal I hadn't eaten? For a celebration I wasn't part of? My thumb hovered over the screen. I hit decline. 15 minutes later, the phone rang. Mom's name flashed across the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she screamed before I could speak. Her voice was raw, almost feral. "Have you completely lost your mind? You embarrassed your father and me in front of the entire family. We couldn't even look them in the eye after your little stunt." I sat down at the table, poured myself coffee. My voice came out steady. "What stunt? Not paying for a dinner I wasn't invited to eat?" "You were invited," she snapped. "We just moved it up because people were hungry, and we all decided at the family meeting that you would cover the bill." I froze. What family meeting? When was I invited to that? Her tone softened, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Oh, honey, everyone knows you can afford it. You make more money than anyone. This is what family does. You help us, and we all get to enjoy life. You're being way too sensitive about last night. Everyone was joking. Stop being dramatic. Just transfer the money, and we can forget this ever happened." My coffee burned bitter on my tongue. "No, Mom, I'm not your ATM anymore. I'm not paying for everything while you all spend your money on whatever you want." Silence stretched on the line, then a sigh. "Monica, don't say things you'll regret. We're family. You'll always come back to us. You always do." I hung up. My hand was steady this time. Within minutes, she called back. I declined. Then Smonica called. Then Dad. Then unknown. They tried every number they could find, like hunters circling prey. I blocked them one by one until my contact list looked like a battlefield of fallen names. Finally, my phone went still. The quiet that followed was disorienting. I sat on the edge of my bed that afternoon, the sunlight spilling across the floorboards, and realized I hadn't felt silence like this in years. No one asking for money. No one guilting me with obligations disguised as love. But silence, I would learn, isn't always peace. Sometimes silence is just the sound before something worse begins. The first week without them felt like stepping into a different climate. My phone, usually a constant hum of demands, lay quiet on the nightstand. I kept expecting it to light up again, but it didn't. When I woke in the mornings, the only sound was the kettle whistling in my kitchen, not Smonica's urgent texts or Mom's guilt-laden voicemails. I hadn't realized how much space their voices had taken up in my head until the silence returned. It wasn't just quiet, it was freedom. At work, I found myself smiling more. Colleagues noticed. "Big promotion coming?" one joked, and I only shrugged, unwilling to admit that my joy came not from what I'd gained, but from what I'd finally stopped losing. Money stayed in my account longer than a week for the first time in years. My savings balance ticked upward steadily, a silent applause every time I checked. I bought myself a soft leather armchair I'd been eyeing for months. Spent a Saturday afternoon arranging plants along my windowsill instead of driving across town to drop off cash in someone else's mailbox. I even took a weekend trip to the mountains. The cabin was small, the kind where wood creaked with every step and the air smelled of pine and ash. I sat on the porch with a blanket and watched the sunrise alone. And for the first time in years, the word alone didn't taste like loneliness. It tasted like peace. But peace has a way of making you remember the storms you survived. Sometimes at night, I'd think back to the Florida postcard taped above my mother's refrigerator. I remembered the handwriting. "Wish you were here." Except they hadn't wished that at all. I'd paid for it, but they hadn't even pretended to invite me. Other times, I'd think about the way Dad had sighed as I slid him envelopes of cash, as though my paycheck were his lifeline instead of mine, or the way Smonica had hugged me once after I covered her car repair bill, murmuring, "You're the best sister ever," before disappearing with her friends the very next weekend. These memories weren't requests anymore. They were echoes, and for 3 months the echoes grew fainter, until one Tuesday morning in late summer when my phone finally rang again. The number was unfamiliar, but professional. I almost ignored it, then answered. "Miss Monica Torres? This is Jessica from Chase Bank's Collections Department. I'm calling about your overdue credit card account ending in 4792. You're currently 2 months behind on payments." I blinked. I don't have a Chase credit card." Jessica's tone remained polite, but there was a pause, the kind that carried bad news. "According to our records, you applied for a Chase Freedom Card 3 months ago. The account shows a balance of $20,147, with no payments made." My heart lurched. "That's impossible. I never applied for that." "Let me verify some details with you." Paper shuffled on her end. "The application lists this email address." She read it aloud. I froze. It wasn't mine, but I knew it instantly. Smonica's email. "That's not mine," I whispered. "That's my sister's." Jessica hesitated, then continued. "The application also lists your home address and your social security number." The room tilted around me. I clutched the edge of the table to stay upright. "Send me the application documents. Now." Minutes later, an email arrived. My hands shook as I opened the attached PDF. There was my name, my address, my social security number, typed neatly into the boxes. At the bottom, a signature that mimicked mine, but slightly off, like someone had traced it with unsteady fingers. And in the contact field, Smonica's email. My eyes blurred with hot tears. I scrolled further. Transactions filled the statements. Designer clothing stores, electronics, restaurants, an $800 charge for a brand new iPhone, $500 at a steakhouse, a shopping spree at a boutique I knew Smonica loved, $20,000 in 2 months. I checked the application date. My stomach dropped. The card had been opened exactly 1 month after the night at Romano's, when I had torn that bill into confetti and walked out. It wasn't coincidence, it was retaliation. When they couldn't squeeze money from me anymore, they had simply decided to steal it. I pressed my palms against my eyes, willing myself to wake up from this. But the documents on my screen were real. The debt in my name was real. And the signature, the pathetic imitation of mine, was proof of who had done it. My sister. Yes, Monica. The one who used to braid my hair when we were kids. The one who once cried on my shoulder after her first breakup. The one I'd covered for, over and over, with bills, with lies, with money I'll never see again. I thought of her smirking at Romano's, raising her glass and calling me an ATM. And suddenly, it all made sense. I wasn't family to them anymore. I was a resource, a bank. And when the vault closed, they broke in. I drove to my parents' house that evening without even realizing I'd grabbed my keys. My body was moving on instinct, powered by anger sharp enough to slice through my skin. The folder of printed bank documents sat on the passenger seat, accusing me every time my eyes flicked sideways. The porch light glowed when I pulled into the driveway. The same house I'd paid the mortgage for 2 years ago. The same house I'd kept warm with utility bills while Dad was between jobs. My pulse hammered as I walked up the steps. Mom answered the door, her face flickering from surprise to unease, then to forced delight in the space of 2 seconds. "Monica, what a nice surprise." "Nice." I pushed past her into the living room without answering. Dad was sprawled in his recliner, the TV flashing blue light across his face. He muted it when he saw me. His expression was wary, like I was a storm cloud that had drifted inside. I dropped the folder on the coffee table. Papers spilled out, stark against the wood. Monica opened a credit card in my name. $20,000 in debt. She forged my signature and used my social security number. Explain this. The silence was thick. Mom's smile faltered, but she didn't look shocked. Dad's eyes narrowed, not with confusion, but calculation. "You knew," I whispered. My throat burned. "You both knew." "Monica, calm down," Mom said gently, the same tone she used when I was a child with a scraped knee. She picked up one of the papers, scanned it, and set it down like it was nothing more than a grocery list. "We can explain." "Explain? She committed fraud. That's a felony." Dad finally leaned forward, some elbows on his knees. "We needed the money. It was the easiest way to get it without bothering anyone." "Without bothering anyone?" I almost laughed. "You stole from me, from your own daughter." Mom folded her hands in her lap, her voice soft, reasonable. "Honey, you have a good job, a good salary. You can handle this. We used the card to pay some bills, have a few dinners, and Monica bought herself things she needed." "Needed?" My voice cracked into a bitter laugh. I snatched one of the statements and read aloud. $800 for an iPhone, $500 at a steakhouse, $300 on designer shoes. That's what you call needs?" "She's young," Mom said firmly, eyes narrowing, as if I were the unreasonable one. "Her old phone broke. She deserves to have nice things too." I turned to Dad, desperate for one sane voice. "Do you hear this? Do you see what you're defending?" His gaze was steady, hard. "Maybe this will teach you a lesson. Family isn't about walking away when things get hard. If you abandon us, we'll find a way. Next time, think twice before refusing to help." The words landed like ice water. They weren't even denying it. They weren't ashamed. They saw it as justified, as punishment. "You taught me a lesson?" My voice was shaking. "No, you showed me what I really am to you. A wallet. A means to an end. Not a daughter, not a sister, just money." "Monica," Mom's tone snapped sharper now, the sweetness stripped away. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just money. You'll pay it off in a few months and everything will be fine. Stop making this into something it's not." "Not?" I spat. "This is identity theft. This is fraud. People go to prison for this." As Monica's footsteps creaked down the stairs, she appeared in her pajamas, phone in hand, eyes heavy with irritation. "Can you keep it down? Some of us are trying to sleep." I turned to her, my chest hollow with disbelief. "You stole my identity. You signed my name. Do you have any idea what you've done?" She rolled her eyes. "God, you're so dramatic. It's not like I killed anyone. It's just a card. You make enough money to cover it." The room spun around me. My sister, my parents, all of them staring at me like I was the one overreacting, like I was selfish for daring to protest. Something inside me hardened, calcified in that moment. The last thread holding us together snapped clean. I gathered the documents, my movements sharp, mechanical. This conversation is over, and so is our family. "Monica!" Mom's voice cracked, with a mix of fury and desperation. "Don't be ridiculous, we're family. Family doesn't walk away over money." I stopped at the doorway and looked back. Family doesn't steal from each other. The air between us felt final, like a door slamming shut. Then I walked out, leaving the house, the porch light, and whatever illusion of family I'd once clung to behind me. Marcus's office smelled faintly of old books and fresh coffee, a comforting blend that reminded me of a safer time, before my family turned into predators. We'd been friends since high school, the kind of friendship that survived distance and years because it was built on quiet trust. He flipped through the bank documents slowly, his brows furrowing deeper with each page. Finally, he set them down and looked at me. Jesus, Monica, this isn't just a family spat. This is serious fraud. Identity theft, forgery, unauthorized use of credit. If you wanted to, you could have them all arrested tomorrow. My stomach twisted. Arrested. The word conjured an image of my mother in handcuffs, my father glaring from behind bars, Monica's wide eyes filled with panic. A part of me recoiled, but another part, the bruised, bleeding part, leaned into it with grim satisfaction. What are my options? My voice came out quieter than I intended. Marcus leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Option 1, we go straight to the police. File a criminal report. They'll investigate, probably press charges. Option 2, we file a civil lawsuit for damages. You'll get your money back eventually, though it'll drag through court. Option 3, we send them a demand letter. Give them a chance to pay restitution before we involve law enforcement. Sometimes fear of prison is enough to make people cooperate. My hands clenched into fists on my lap. And if they don't pay? Then you choose, court or cops. But at least you'll know you gave them one last chance. I stared at the documents. The fake signature mocked me from the bottom of the page. My sister's carelessness scrawled over my name. Do it. Write the letter. Marcus nodded. It'll be strong, formal. They'll have 60 days to pay the full $20,000. If they don't, we take the next step. 2 days later, the letter went out by certified mail. The phone calls started within hours of my parents receiving it. First, Mom's voice crackled through voicemail, sharp with rage. How dare you bring lawyers into this, Monica? This is vindictive, cruel. We're family, and you're threatening to destroy us over money? You should be ashamed. Then Dad's message came, weary, but no less manipulative. You're breaking your mother's heart. Do you really want to tear the family apart because of a misunderstanding? Think about what people will say when they find out you dragged your own parents to court. Then Monica, her voice trembling with fake tears. Monica, please, I only used a small part of it. You're exaggerating. It wasn't even all me. Mom and Dad needed help too. Why are you making me the villain? We're sisters. Each voicemail layered on the next like bricks of guilt. But instead of crushing me, they built something else, resolve. Still, their persistence was relentless. Unknown numbers flooded my phone daily. Sometimes I'd answer by mistake, only to hear my aunt's sharp tone. Monica, I was there that night at the restaurant. Things got a little out of hand, but this is overkill. Don't ruin your parents' lives over something that can be forgiven. Tell me, Aunt Marla, I asked once, my voice steady. How much money have you given my parents in the last year? Have you paid their mortgage, their car payments, their vacations? The silence on the other end was telling. That's what I thought, I whispered, and hung up. The guilt-tripping calls turned into a carousel of tactics. Anger, then disappointment, then bargaining. One night, Mom's voice softened into honey. Sweetheart, your father and I raised you better than this. You've always been generous. Don't let resentment harden your heart. Just transfer the money, and let's put this ugliness behind us. Another voicemail arrived less than an hour later, her tone different now, frantic. Please, Monica, think of what you're doing. You'll ruin us. Your father and I, we can't survive this. Is that what you want? To see us destroyed? I sat in my kitchen listening to them all, my thumb hovering over delete, delete, delete. Each message made me tremble, but not with doubt, with recognition. They weren't sorry. Not once did anyone say we were wrong. Not once did they admit guilt. Their only regret was that I'd stopped playing my role. The 60 days stretched long and taut, every voicemail a tug on the rope between us. My nights were restless, my mornings heavy with the ache of carrying memories that now felt poisoned. But beneath the fear and fatigue, something steadier grew. Strength. For the first time, I wasn't bending. I wasn't rescuing them. I wasn't giving in. And as the deadline crept closer, the silence between calls became heavier, more ominous. They were running out of time, and we all knew it. The 60th day loomed like a finish line I wasn't sure I wanted to cross. Each morning I checked my accounts, half expecting nothing. Each evening, I replayed Marcus's calm voice in my head. Don't give in. Don't let them twist this back on you. On the 58th day, my phone buzzed with a notification. Venmo transfer $20,000 from Dad. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My eyes scanned the screen over and over, making sure I wasn't hallucinating. $20,000. They had actually paid. My hands shook as I called Chase Bank. Within an hour, the account was cleared, the card closed permanently, the debt was gone. But the relief was hollow, because I knew what it cost. Not them, me. It cost me the last threads of trust, the last illusions of love I had clung to. After the transfer, the calls stopped. The silence that followed was different from before. It wasn't peace, it was absence, a deliberate exile. Weeks passed. My life, strangely, began to bloom. My savings grew steadily. I bought new furniture for my apartment, sturdy and chosen for me, not the cheapest option left after paying their bills. I signed up for a cooking class, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time for. I even booked a solo trip to Europe. Standing in front of the Colosseum, the air heavy with history, I thought of all the money I'd poured into their lives. Vacations I'd funded but never seen. And now, finally, I was seeing something for myself. But even freedom has shadows. 2 months later, an email arrived. Subject line, family dinner invitation. It was from Smonica. Hey, Monica, we're having Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's this year, just like when we were kids. We're even doing a pirate theme for fun. Hope you can make it. Love, Smonica. I laughed out loud, a bitter, disbelieving sound. A pirate theme. Perfect, really. Pirates, celebrating family after plundering my life. I deleted the email without replying. December came, and with it, a package at my door. Inside, a box of sneakers. The exact pair I'd mentioned once in passing months ago. They fit perfectly. Nestled on top was an invitation to Christmas dinner. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Someone had listened. Someone had remembered. My chest ached with the ghost of hope. But hope is dangerous. Hope is what had kept me chained to them for years. I kept the sneakers, but I stayed home on Christmas. Instead, I bought small gifts for all of them. Nothing extravagant, just token gestures, and had them delivered. My own way of saying, I acknowledge you, but I don't belong to you anymore. The holidays passed quietly, almost eerily. For the first time in my adult life, there were no frantic calls, no last-minute financial rescues, just silence, and the sound of my own life moving forward. Nearly a year later, I stood in my apartment surrounded by the life I had built. My savings account was healthier than ever. I was considering buying a house. I was planning a trip to Japan, not for anyone else, not as a favor, but because I wanted to. Through mutual friends, I heard that Smonica had finally gotten her act together, working 2 jobs, even helping my parents with their bills. It seemed that when the bank finally closed, they figured out how to survive without me. But none of that erased what they had done. I often wondered if reconciliation was possible. Could I forgive them? Could I ever sit at a table again with the same people who once laughed as they called me their ATM? Who stole my name, my credit, my trust, and called it family tradition? I don't know. Maybe one day, maybe never. Because forgiveness requires something I've never gotten from them, an apology. An acknowledgement that what they did wasn't just a little mistake, that it was theft, betrayal, cruelty. Until then, I live here, in the strange new silence. It isn't warm. It isn't the silence of family dinners or shared laughter. But it is mine, and maybe that's enough. Because in the end, they didn't just take my money. They took my trust, and that debt can never be repaid.